Hello, everybody, and welcome to the World Elite Championship of the Grand Prestige League. We are here in round 6 at Trial Mountain, but the reverse layout of Trial Mountain. This is an original Gran Turismo circuit that has been around since probably Gran Turismo 1, if I remember correctly. And it has seen slight iterations throughout the years in the different versions of Gran Turismo, and this one is no exception. I believe it has been elongated where the straights are extra long straights now, and there are two, as you can see on the track layout right here, extremely long straights. And this is a very awkward, kind of contradictory track to set your car up for, as you got these really long straights which normally would favor very low downforce setups, but then you got these extremely high speed sweeping corners here and here as well as here that would favor higher downforce setup. But then you also have extremely tight chicanes here and some hairpins that would favor more of a mechanical grip sort of low speed cornering setup. And so no matter how you set your car up, there are going to be trade-offs today, and it's going to be really interesting if he will prevail. Wind direction, as always, can play a factor, as well as if you get a tailwind through some of these high-speed corners, that will reduce the amount of effective downforce that you have going into the corner pretty dramatically. And although it is an extremely tricky track to drive on, very awkward track to drive on, it looks spectacular, and if you can nail a lap through here, it does feel very flowy. But if you don't nail it, boy, it just feels really weird to drive on, as much every single corner is a blind corner. Oh, I see. I've been checked into the race. There we go. Alright, my car is no longer in the pits, so now we are good to start the qualifying session. And we're going to see today how these guys will shape up over one lap. Alright, and we will see who can get out of the pits first. At the moment, we're on board with our lobby host, who usually does get to go out of the pits first, followed by Yuki of XOAMR, and Ghosted in the Porsche, Ducky Dono in the other Porsche. Oh, looks like Ducky is actually out ahead. Everyone making sure they're on the soft tire. We got Teo Iceman still sitting in the pits. Maybe he is changing something on his car, or maybe tires, or he just wants to wait until the gaps are more spread out before heading out on track. We got a little bit of a scuffle for track position here out on the outlap, which is fine. If you want to fight for track position, now is the time to do it, because none of this lap here is being timed. So to try to overtake on track would not be considered impeding a timed lap. So we see Ghosted weaving through the straights, through these long tunnels, trying to get some temperature into that tire, preparing his car for the flying lap. But yeah, as you can see, just how I mentioned, it looks spectacular when you're watching the cars drive through here. All the various sweeping corners, the left-right sequences, they come in spades, and there's lots of tunnels and forestry that you're driving through. It is a beautiful looking track, to say the least. And now we got our very first flying lap about to begin. It is Nuko, one of our championship contenders here, one of two primary contenders for the Drivers' Championship, being Nuko and Illusion. But right now we are focused on that Toyota of Nuko. it looks like he gets through the opening chicane without issues. Believe me, you would know, because that chicane is very tricky. Getting ever so close to that wall there on the exit, that's usually a good sign that you took that efficiently. We got a very, very long straight. This is the second straight of the track through the tunnel. Another sweeping uphill corner where you exit into a smaller tunnel. This time the sweeping right-hander is in the tunnel itself. It looked like he made a little bit of contact with the wall there. It might be lag, but he might have just pushed it too hard. I have noticed while I was spectating a couple of people practicing that there was instances where it looked like they brushed up against the wall, but they didn't actually brush up against the wall. Oh, and a bit of a slide there on the second attempt. As you can see, now that I put the telemetry up, there is enough overtake where you can perform 2 consecutive push laps in a row and have enough overtake to complete both of them. So Nuco here on a second consecutive push lap, as we got Illusion, who just set the provisional pole lap almost a half a second ahead of Nuco here. And Nuco deciding to abort that lap and go ahead and come out for another out lap to take an attempt. It looks like Illusion also not utilizing his second push lap in a row, instead opting to come out of the pits for a second out lap to prepare the tires. Now, with Barcelona, there was enough time on track in the qualifying session where you could just come out of the pits and do both of your consecutive push laps, do your next set of out laps and push laps, and have just enough time for about 5 attempts. Here, the intervals are not quite as friendly timing-wise, so if you do want that additional push lap attempt on your qualifying session, you are going to have to be very wise about when you decide to bail out of one of your push laps if it's not looking like it's a purple lap. And so it's going to take a lot of judgment from these guys to time their intervals just right to maximize their attempts here on track. Now getting a bit wide into the grass there, that actually is an optimized line. You can exit on the grass there and not lose any time. As we see Hop House improving his time tremendously there. Hop House subbing in for Alex on Porsche. And we see Boita in the other Porsche now sitting there in P3 with a good margin to Flaring Aces in the second Toyota. As Boita is now going to begin his push lap, I'm going to go on board with Boita so we can see from the driver's perspective just what this track looks like and how tricky it is. And not only that, but this is another one of those tracks where the walls are right next to the track limit. I'm being mentioned in the comments right now, but as a reserve driver. And indeed, I concur with Whiteout that everything that doesn't go according to plan is Alex's fault, per usual. So you guys are a wise group of commenters. You hit it right on the money there. Now, going into that tunnel, there is a test of your bravery. How early can you get on the gas? Because it is very blind when you're going up that hill. You need to get on the gas before you can even see where your exit line is going to be. So you have to have incredibly good judgment there in order to maximize that corner. It's very scary. And veering back over the right as he crosses the line. It is a 27-1, and he does get closer to Nuco. He shaves off about a half a second, but it's still not good enough to improve the position. But P3 is a great position to be in if you're anyone outside of these top two guys here that are fighting for the championship, as they're both coming out of the pits once more. But it looks like after as many minutes as it's been, Illusion is still the time to beat with the provisional pole position time of a 26.6. That is a lightning time. In fact, while he is just on an outlap real quick, I'm going to check. It looks like we got a minute 40 left to go in this qualifying session. Let's see who else is on a fast lap right now. As Hop House is just finishing one as he comes across the line in a 28.6. A very solid time indeed in that Porsche car. We got Yuki, who is okay, looks like he was going off of the racing line, allowing a car to pass him who is on a flyer. Probably this man right here. Wait, no. Couldn't have been. That was Nuka. But yeah, back on board with Yuki here as he going to begin a flying lap, as he does seem to be slightly off the pace of where we would expect him. I mean, not by much though. We would expect him to be in or around this range-ish, but not sure if he's set a representative time yet. But now we will be able to see for certain as we can go on board in this view and see if he can improve upon his time and position here, as he is less than a tenth, only 300ths away from Hop House's P6. So if he improves even just by a little bit, he should get at least P6 there. Oh, and it's less than a tenth away between Hop House and Ghost, but Hop House improves his time, so now it looks like he's up about 4/10 now from the position that I was just describing relative. Going through the bridge, holding that overtake. He's already about halfway overtake usage here, so he probably will not have enough for a second flying lap here. Yeah, Hop House getting into the 27s as Yuki cannot improve his position at 28.1. And I mean, just look at these margins that we have here in the midfield. It is extremely tight margins between a lot of these guys. Only 2/10 separating the top couple of drivers, and then the next few, it's less. It's hundredths from there. So let's just pull up your qualifying order, and this is going to be your grid for the race here in just a minute. And what a lap it was from Illusion. I believe it was his first attempt as well that he got the pole position lap on. And what a lap it was 2 seconds ahead of Nuco, who is rapid around here. As Illusion himself in the chat, letting us know this is indeed his first pole position of the season, as surprising as that may be, considering that he is in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. And as good of qualifying performances as there has been throughout the season, you don't get any points for qualifying. It all counts in the main race. And Illusion has proven that so far, but it is even nicer to be able to start from pole position, as he now gets to for the first time of the season, as these drivers are just now giving their ready indicators in the chat. This race is about to begin soon. Let everyone know that I got the red flag in my hand, ready to wave it if there is chaos in the start. Just waiting a moment for the countdown to begin, and then we will take you to the on-track action. Alright, those lights are on. As soon as they're off, we're racing. And the lights are out, and the race has begun. They're on their way. It looks like a good launch from Illusion. And yet we got Nuco right in the slipstream as they are taking all sorts of lines to try to battle each other here. It was a good first corner from Illusion, staying just ahead of Nuco, but Nuco is still in a great position to make a challenge for position here. And this is for the lead. It already looks like our first two drivers are breaking away from the pack already. We're taking a look farther down the line here. It looks like the order has remained relatively stable throughout the grid here, as now we look back towards our leaders. As this is very tight here, as they're about to go on to one of the long straights of this track. And the slipstream is substantial here through this tunnel, as everyone is moving across the track to try to break the tow, but everyone is right there. We got multiple drivers in the slipstream. Boita and Ghosted here, wheel to wheel, 2 cars further back, wheel to wheel as well. Boita sweeps around the outside, holds the position. Flaring Aces and Yuki, as Yuki moves up at least 1 position, maybe 2 there. Oh, what happened to Hop House? Hop House is down the order. We'll see if there's any other damage. He's the only car on track with damage, so unfortunately for Hop House, not quite enough for a red flag. That's unfortunate. I thought we made it out there clean, but apparently we did not, as Illusion holds his lead for the first lap, and that is crucial for the rest of this race, as now you can see a gap starting to open up very slightly as these groups behind are still battling. We got 4 wide here going into the exit of the chicane. Now with this group racing here, when there's 3, 4, 5 cars all racing for 1 position on track, this is where the more clever drivers are going to be able to make major gains in a short period of time. From clever racing here, as Hop House goes immediately into the pits to repair that damage. Very unfortunate timing to have a pit stop on the very first lap of the race. Yeah, there is as Alex points out in the comments, that perhaps is that cosmic karma. These gaps are extremely tight now. They're wheel to wheel, the BMW and a Porsche. Two German Titan teams driven by non-German drivers here. They make a little bit of contact out of the exit, but it all is fair. Looked like a healthy little wheel bump there. Nothing too bad. That's good racing there as Yuki taking these large sweeping lines. Yuki, one of the beneficiaries of the group racing happening there, is now him and Teo Iceman are starting to break away from the pack a little bit. And it's Yuki in a great position to overtake now, as he is wheel to wheel and now ahead going into the very first corner of this race. He's a whole car length ahead, and now this will give... No, he sweeps across to cover off the inside dive bomb from Teo Iceman, who wisely decides not to dive in there. Yuki ahead, Yuki making out great, going from 7th to 5th, and now his mission is to stay ahead of Teo Iceman and potentially chase down Ghosted there in P4, about 3.5 seconds up the road. Now, going back to our leaders, it does look like this gap has widened out a little bit, and it is stabilizing at about 1 second. So this is what 1 second looks like between these two cars at the moment. Nuko looks like he's just slightly outside of very effective slipstream range, as he's not getting too much of a tow here from Illusion. Boita actually catching up to Nuko more so than Nuko's catching up to Illusion. Only 0.8 of a second separate those two as they are about to get into this really, really high-speed section to finish out the lap. Very fun section to drive here. It takes minimal steering input, and it is flat out, no matter what. These sweeping corners, large elevation changes, blind corners all the way. You really have to know this track in order to drive it well. Whiteout asking about strategy in the comments. You know, I'm thinking that these guys are going to want to target a one-stop if possible, but it's going to be really difficult to pull off because tire wear is... It's actually not that bad if you can manage it just right, but it is really, really easy to over-push in a couple of corners if you're not paying attention to your tires, and making a one-stop no longer viable. I do believe the medium to medium one-stop is the best choice here, but you have to be very good on those tires in order to make that work. I'm assuming as well we'll probably see a few people who can't quite make that interval work and then opt for an additional stop on a soft tire. As I do believe we have a couple of drivers on a soft tire. We have Teo Iceman on the soft, and he is the only driver on the soft, actually. Yeah, exactly. As Boita points out, the pit stop is extremely long here. Despite it being in a straight line, it is deceptively long, especially the pit lane exit. It just goes on forever and forever. Even though it does take you past the chicane that you get to skip, it is still just extremely long to be waiting there at 50 miles an hour. As Illusion doing a good job to maintain this gap, even slightly increasing it by the end of the straight there. Not really using his overtake are either of these drivers. Ghosted is, though. Ghosted seeming to be the only one out of this top group here that is using overtake. Yuki was a little bit too, but he is trying to catch up to this pack ahead of him as he is breaking away from the cars behind. So pace-wise, he is doing a really good job. Just sitting there in the middle, kind of no man's land, all by himself, but he doesn't get the detriment of the dirty air from following and chasing cars around. And he can just focus on his own race pace at this stage too and not have to worry too much about pushing and over pushing in order to try to stay with a group that he may or may not be able to with sheer pace alone. So this is going quite well so far for Yuki. It doesn't look like the gap ahead is really coming down too much though. Pretty stabilized. The gap behind is increasing though, so at least that is good for Yuki there in that Exo Aston Martin vehicle. Looking a little further down the road, we got good gaps starting to open up for everyone now. Oh, and it looks like the gap's actually coming down significantly between the two race leaders here, Illusion and Nuco. Less than half a second now, as Nuco got a great slipstream down the main straight of this track. And now this is the part where that gap can open up again. You're in a good range right now for that is Illusion. The dirty air, not as bad as it has been in previous tracks, just because this track is pretty wide on the actual road itself, and especially through those higher speed corners. If you take an alternate line to your opponent that's ahead, you can avoid a lot of the initial gust of the dirty air, which is the most devastating part if you're the following car. And it doesn't look like Nuco suffering from the understeer too badly, only losing about 2/10 through all of those high-speed sequences of corners. So that's pretty good on Nuco to not lose too much ground there and stay within a range where the slipstream will be highly effective by the time they get to the main straight. Hopefully for his sake, we will see here in just a moment as they round the final corner. They are now on the straight. Not on the overtake, just intent with where he is, or thinking that using overtake at this stage might not be effective in actually closing the gap. That's another thing too I've noticed with these top drivers. They're very strategic on the deployment of their overtake. They don't want to waste it, and it's very easy to be tempted and baited into overusing your overtake to try to close a gap. But if you can't make the overtake with your overtake, then you're really just wasting it, because you're closing a gap just for it to open back up as soon as you hit the corners. As you can see, that gap opening back up again to about 1.2 seconds here. When Alex isn't making chaos and confusion on track, he's making chaos and confusion in the comments. I would expect no different, though. Yeah, stable gaps all around at the moment, as it looks pretty good here for Boita, too. As he's watching these two try to chase each other, Boita just staying within a really, really good range here. And this is what I expect to see from Boita, is just really solid race pace, minding his own business, not making any trouble. But if there's an opportunity, best believe Boita is in a great position to pick up the pieces. And if anything happens here, those pieces that he picks up could be a victory. As the gap behind him seems to be opening up as well, slightly bit. It's a couple seconds, 2-3 seconds, and now Yuki is actually beginning to close that gap. It's a second down from last time we checked on him. So now the gap 2.1 looking good, and the gap behind increasing even more so. It looks like we do have a bit of a position change here. Flaring Aces now up ahead of Teo Iceman. The second Porsche, or the second Toyota rather, getting ahead of that Team Mugen car. Not sure if there was a mistake or what happened there. Of Ducky here does seem slightly outside of slipstream range. Oh, Jesse in the chat. How's it going, Jesse? Good to see you. Still 9 seconds off the pack is Hop House. He is beginning to close that gap a little bit as he is on his recovery drive on those mediums. King No Skill in the chat as well. Good to see you. Wrapping up the inaugural season of his own DRL League with the F3500 90s Formula One cars. That was a very good series indeed. Yeah, and the gap still ever so slightly coming down between Yuki and Ghosted here. I would love to see a good battle between these two cars. They did make some good contact in round 2 at Dragon Trail, as there was a bit of an incident where they got kind of friendly on track, but I would like to see round 2 of that fight. Hopefully that gap gets closed up for us so that we could see some of that. Now back ahead here, these gaps are still extremely stable, and with the pace that these guys are showing right now, that's incredible that these gaps are not moving, because they are pretty much on the limit right now. With the amount of fuel that they're carrying on board, this is near the maximum pace that you can do without destroying your tires. And they are, as it looks right here, Illusion with better tire wear than Nuco at the moment. Nuco, being in that dirty air, it is wearing his tire a little bit more. He has to put more energy into that front left tire in order for it to get similar amounts of grip that the leading car Illusion is getting into these high-speed corners. And we see, if we go back to Boita, of course, no surprise here, Boita really excellent on his tires, keeping all 4 in a really balanced range of wear at the moment, as is Illusion. And that is the luxury of leading the races, that you get to manage and dictate the pace as well as your tire wear. As Illusion now setting a purple sector there at sector 1. We'll see if he can maintain this purple lap pace, as right now the current purple lap is a 30.1 from Nuco. And that is a really fast lap time, especially with this amount of fuel on board. They're carrying a lot, especially compared to the SWT class. They begin with 80 liters of fuel on board. Indeed, I would concur. Much better than the Masters. As you can see, they're getting all the way into that grass. They're using all of the track and a little bit more. You exit in the grass there, it is actually the fastest line, but you got to be so careful dipping your wheels on purpose into the grass, lap after lap after lap. Luckily, making your tire a little bit dirty there doesn't affect your line too much, because the following corners after that are very, very easy to take flat out. You don't need to put very much steering input at all into those corners to make them work. Nuco's still chasing, but losing a bit of ground, just about 0.3 of a second more since the last lap. And it does look like the tire wear being out of balance for Nuco is going to start affecting his lap times here, as it creates a lot of understeer into this corner in particular and the next corner in particular. The fastest corners on the track, it will make you understeer through there, and it affects how quickly you can get back on that gas. It requires really, really quick rotation in order to get back on the gas early enough to maximize these corners. Here's the next one. And it does look like he is just not able to get back on the gas pedal as quickly as Illusion is able to. Illusion completing the rotation of his car slightly sooner. When I say slightly sooner, I mean like 100th of a second sooner, and that over the course of 46 laps can add up to several seconds. It makes a huge difference when you're compounding all of these tiny gains lap after lap. Although it does look like Nuco actually made a bit of a gain there. Even the slightest wobble can cost you when it comes down to these two drivers, because they are just so on the limit, maximizing every single corner, using every millimeter of track they have available to them, that the slightest wobble will cost you major between these two guys. This gap starts to open up again a little bit, about 0.2 up since last time I mentioned. And we're looking elsewhere on track. We will see how the progress is going here now between Yuki and Ghosted. It looks like There's been no progress in this gap since last time it has been mentioned. About 2 seconds still between 4th and 5th place there. The gap behind also pretty stabilized, although I would say slightly increasing in Yuki's favor. The Toyota in a very lonely position himself, with massive gaps ahead and behind. Oh, it does look like we did have another mistake here from Teo Iceman, as there has been more position drops and yet no battles that I was able to see on track. So that leaves me to believe a very large mistake has happened. I don't see any damage that he's carrying. So maybe he had to take an additional pit stop, but I didn't see one of those. And it looks like Hop House is making a good recovery drive so far, as he is no longer in last place and he is making progress in his gap, chasing down Ducky Dono. These are two drivers that do participate in the SWT class together. So these guys are rivals for the other weekends. They will know each other's pace well. They should have a pretty similar pace. It does look like Hop House has the edge here at the moment, but their pace shouldn't be too different. It's not too significantly anyways. And yeah, just checking the tire wear across the field here. It does look like Yuki having a bit worse tire wear than some of his rivals. Nuko's tires now, if you take a look at that, is significantly worse than the rest of the field. Nuko now in a class of his own for bad tire wear at the moment, and this is not going to look good for his race, as if he really wants to make a one-stop work the way that we're assuming a lot of these guys are going to go for. It's not looking good at the moment. I think he's going to have to go for a two-stop strategy. I wonder if we're going to see him incorporate the soft tire into the mix there if he is taking another pit stop, or if his tire wear is bad enough that he doesn't even want to take a set of softs and might need even 3 sets of mediums just to make this race distance work. That would be really detrimental, though, in order to take another set of mediums and an additional pit stop, because you don't really have any period of the race where you're going to have a massive pace advantage from tire compound. Because, I mean, look at the difference here between these two compounds, as now we can start to see Illusion's front left is starting to wear out of balance now from the other 4 tires. Eventually that front left will start to fall out of balance, eventually, just because you are putting more energy into that tire lap after lap. So it is pretty impressive just to see how well they've been balanced up to this point. But of course, as soon as it gets out of balance, that's when the understeer will set in for these drivers. But there's still a long way to go on this stint if they're planning to do a one-stop here. They're going to have to go around 20 to 23 laps. 23 laps being the halfway distance of this race. Now, of course, as well, the second half of your race distance, you will have much less fuel on board, so a lighter car means that you're wearing the tires a little less. So we may see, as Nuko does go into the pits now, we'll see what tire he goes on. This is going to be critical for his race. But as I was saying about the fuel weight, as your car gets lighter, you can go farther on the tires, and so you don't necessarily have to take your tire all the way to the halfway distance. You can go slightly earlier than the halfway distance because your second stint is going to be easier on the tires than your first stint. But I am assuming for these guys that are targeting a one-stop, they're going to go nearly half distance, maybe slightly less. And Nuko is on another set of medium tires. So not opting for the hard. He's in a really awkward interval right now. I'm assuming at this point, based on that, that he is going to have to do 2 sets of mediums and then 1 set of soft to finish the race on. Now is he's in 5th position from that with a 18-second gap now to the leader of this race, which is still Illusion, who's managed his tires very nicely up to this point in the race. We have Boita and Illusion with almost identical tire wear, and that is good to hear if you are anyone not named Boita, as Boita seems to be the standard for how to manage your tires in this league. He's always been one of the best on his tires. As we can see, they're still pretty balanced for this much progress in their wear cycle. As the teammate to Nuko in the other Toyota also in the pits now, we're going to see if they're on the same strategy or not here, as it does look like Flaring Aces. His tires are a bit worse than the others, but not quite as bad as his teammates were. We'll see if he does the same thing here. Whoa, interesting. Okay. Yeah, Whiteout did. Okay, so Whiteout pointed out something very interesting there in the pits. Illusion actually pointed this out to me earlier too. We were testing. The time lost in the pits was vastly different from one session to another session. I believe because in the practice session, perhaps it didn't skip the pit lane exit where you run out of the pits, and it just kind of goes on and on and on as you're waiting to exit the pit lane. It looked like when we were spectating Flaring Aces there, like he just kind of appeared at the end of the pit lane as soon as his tires were put on and he was sent out of his box. And so that would actually significantly reduce the amount of time lost on track, which the more time lost on track, the more it favors a strategy with less stops. And the less time lost in pits favors a strategy with more stops. So that actually eases up the detrimental effect of that pit stop from Nuko. As now he's already in P4 and setting purple laps, purple sectors here, as he is now closing in on Ghosted. Does look like he's gonna get potentially a slipstream here, maybe a little bit of a slipstream. He has also began to use a pretty significant amount of his overtake given how much of the race is remaining. He's already a little bit under halfway of his overtake all the way used up. Yeah, good point there in the chat. Not sure if Illusion does know what the actual time lost in pits is at this point in time, as that confusion about how much time is lost came just before the race began. But we will see if he figures that out. Either way, though, I believe he has a strategy already pre-prepared, so how much time is lost in the pits won't affect what his strategy is too much, I don't believe. It might affect what lap he decides to come in or stay out within his pit window, but I don't believe it will drastically change what his pit window is. Boita now in P2 at the moment, and if he pitted, he would definitely be dropping probably to P5 or 6, somewhere in that range. Trying to do a quick math here, and it does look like if Illusion were to pit now-ish, it would put him in about P4. As you can see, the tires now are starting to get down there. This is going to be difficult to manage this last handful of laps. He has to just make it work here, as we already know he's going to be losing a lot of pace. On that last lap alone, it looks like he lost almost a second worth of time. Just because you cannot be confident with that rotation. It does look like Yuki jumps in the pits. His tires are dead, but that is a bit early for the one-stop interval. Yeah, hopefully he can make that second stint work out. It's going to be really difficult. Those tires are going to be pushed to the absolute limit in order to make this work out. As he loses one position there to Hop House. Oh, maybe not, maybe not. It shows that on the timing chart for a moment, but no, it looks like he does maintain P5. He took an entire pit stop, did not lose a position, and he's still got a decent gap to Hop House behind. But now it is a 20-second gap to Ghosted here. Now would be an excellent time for Yuki here to capitalize, though. He can get an undercut going, as Ghosted's tires are also completely destroyed at this point. And so every lap, additionally, that Ghosted decides to stay out is an extra lap of undercut that Yuki's going to get on him. So Yuki making up ground right here. This is a perfect opportunity for him, as is Nuko, by the way, making up a ton of ground on Illusion at the moment, and it does look like Nuko will inherit the lead once Illusion pits at this point in the race. That gap was 18 seconds when he came out of the pits. It is now down to 11 seconds, so this undercut has worked hugely for Nuko. It works out right now, but that could come back to bite him at the end of the race if he doesn't have enough tire to hold on to that. So it is a gamble out here today. These drivers are gambling. Some are gambling with a severe undercut. Some are gambling with their tires and how long they can make them last. This track is a casino at the moment, and there can only be one big winner. Yeah, some of our chat is now starting to shift towards the idea that the two-stop might be more of a viable strategy than the one-stop. But at this point, based on the intervals that some of these drivers have taken that are targeting the one-stop, they might have put themselves on the back foot. If the two-stop is a better strategy, it seems like Nuko nailed the pit window for the most efficient two-stop intervals. But that would only be a good thing if the two-stop does work out to be the faster strategy, as that gap is still coming down quickly. So you can see the drivers ahead, the state of their tires, it's not looking good for them. And we got Nuko here with really, really good tires and really good pace. A 29.5 is now the fastest lap of the race, set by Nuko just 2 laps ago. And that is a lightning fast time on the medium tire in race trim here. That is a really good time. Indeed, 2 seconds a lap faster. That is a lot. Now, what Illusion has to be banking on at this point in the race is that the amount of time that Nuko just made on him will be lost by having to take an additional pit stop, and that all of that gain and effort will be for nothing. That would be the hope at this point for Illusion. Those tires are pretty rough. We'll see if Illusion decides to jump into the pits here. We'll go on board for these last few blind sweeping roller coaster corners here. And it does look like he's opting for the pits. Oh my goodness, did he cross the line there? It might have been a lag that made it look like he crossed the line, but if he did indeed cross the line, that would be just terrible. He will have just shot himself in the foot. At least he definitely dummied me on board. I thought he was gonna go in and then stay out and then go in again. We'll see as soon as he exits the pits. If he crossed the line, it will tell us right away if he got a penalty for that. And he did cross the line. That's huge. 3-second penalty is absolutely massive here. It's massive anywhere. As we got a couple more drivers heading into the pits, we got Ghosted and Hop House going in to shed those medium tires, both of which are completely destroyed. Oh, that's huge. Not sure what happened there, because this is probably one of the easiest tracks to not have a pit lane infraction, and yet maybe just the way the lines are painted on the ground, maybe he thought the one line wasn't the line, that inside was the outside type thing. Not sure what happened there. Or maybe just a last second change of the mind. Like, no, I'm gonna stay out. Actually, no, I can't. These tires are too bad. I don't want to be out here for a whole nother lap on these. It did kind of look to me like it was indecisiveness, although I thought a good lap to pit on, though. Speculation running wild in the chat. Keep it going. Because, yeah, I mean, he definitely can make this up, though, but that's a 3-second time penalty served on track will equal closer to like 5 seconds lost, maybe even 6 seconds lost, depending on where it's served on track. I haven't tested that exactly myself, exactly how much time is lost on track from a 3-second penalty. I try my best to avoid those, but it's going to be significant, and you're going to lose more than 3 seconds. Especially because this right here is exactly where that time penalty is served, at the very beginning of the longest straight on the track. So that is huge. Well, we got a 14-second gap. It's not as big as the 18-second gap that Nuco had to overcome when he came out of the pits. So Illusion is still in a good position. We have a race on our hands now, folks. It is a large gap between them now, but if you net all of it out and take away all the pit stops, these two might as well be right next to each other on track. We're on board with Illusion in his attempt to make up ground right now. We're going to see some really good laps right now from Illusion, because this is where you can make it all count. Let's look from here so we can see a steering wheel too. Illusion, one of the better drivers when it comes to just his inputs and his control of the steering wheel and the throttle pedal. And we can take a good look at his technique here. We got Boita in the pits from P2, which promotes Illusion back up to P2. Boita only losing one position from the entire pit stop now into P3. Yuki also being promoted up a position. Because of that undercut, he did cut in like maybe 4 or 5 seconds out of Ghosted from undercutting him. But now we can see this tire difference. That tire difference, although it worked out for Yuki right now, that might come back to hurt him at the end of the race. Back to our leaders here. And speaking of tire difference, look at this tire difference. Basically, as soon as Nuco's tire advantage starts to dissipate, we now have a massive tire advantage for Illusion. And Nuco, his tire, his wear, the balance is already coming out of balance for that front left, as you can see, wearing way more severely proportionate to the other tires than the other drivers' front lefts at the moment. So that is not good news if you're Nuco. The Frenchmen are really pushing these tires to their absolute brink. Very tighty chicane there. And that is one of the more difficult chicanes. He made it look easy, but I'm telling you, it is awkward. It is extremely tight on the first part, and then you're going so slow by the time you exit the first part that you already want to start turning in for the second part, but then it's a little longer than it should be, and you have to like extend before you start turning in for the second part. Is just extremely awkward. But he made it look easy, carried just enough momentum through the middle part of that chicane in order not to have to give an extra awkward amount of gas in between there, making it work out beautifully for him. It does seem like this gap is coming down, but not as quickly as it was when it was Nuko's turn to cut into the pace. The tire difference was also much larger when Nuko was behind. The tire difference is substantial at this point, but not as much as it was when it was Nuko. Very fun set of corners there. Very easy set of corners. And then the rest of the track, very difficult. Checking in on Boita, seeing how he's doing. He's doing pretty good there. Still in a race all of his own. Only a 6-second gap between him and Yuki, though. Oh, now he can see Ghosted in the background of Yuki, too. He might actually get to see this fight after all. That's what I wanted to see, is a fight between Ghosted and Yuki on track. We will get to see in due time, perhaps, if they've resolved their differences. As there was a penalty served for Ghosted in round 2 for a little too much wheel banging. But it's always fun. If you're not banging wheels, are you even really trying hard enough? So now Yuki having to keep an eye on the ever-growing BMW that is in his mirrors. Is he going to continue to close the gap onto Boita here? Or is he going to start to fall back and have to focus on defense? Ideally for him, he can close that gap a bit more before he has to start going full defensive mode. Because, as you know, going defensive does cost you time. It might save you a position, but it will cost you time to battle, even if you are ahead the whole time. Yeah, and it does look like Boita is starting to pull away from Yuki a little bit here, because now the gap is up to 7.3 seconds. The gap up ahead, though, between our two championship leaders, our most direct rivals in this series here, the gap is still coming down, but pretty slowly. Taking a look down the order, we got big gaps all around. It does look like Hop House also in a race of his own in P6 right now, which is a good recovery from the last place he started this race in after some kind of incident or a mistake had occurred. Ducky now in last place, perhaps making mistakes himself, because after a few large mistakes from Teo Iceman putting himself in last place, we now have Ducky Dono of BMW in last place. Also using quite a bit of his overtake to try to recover some of the time lost on track there. As we see Teo Iceman completely out of overtake already. A little bit over the halfway mark of this race, and he is all the way out. Flaring Aces got about a quarter of his left. Now we're just checking on overtake. A little less than half from Hop House. It is improving as we continue to go up the field. It does seem the higher you are on track, the more overtake you have left. And that trend continues with Yuki as he is a little over halfway. Boita not even having touched his overtake but a couple of times. Almost full overtake. Illusion also in a really, really good state when it comes to his overtake. He is using a bit now. This is the time for him to use it as he is in that undercut window. He has gained about a second, 2 seconds since last we monitored it. He is using that overtake little by little. Now is a good window to do it, because when Nuco has to pit again, you want to build as big of a gap now as you can while the tires are still fresh. So by the time Nuco comes out, that gap will be as big as possible for you. You can manage your tires and hopefully save as much tire as possible by the time Nuco potentially catches up to you in the final stint. But you have enough tire left that you can fight, you can defend, and you can push. As there he is on the overtake once again as he crosses the line, and it's a 29.9. That is a really good time. He also is the purple lap holder now at this point at a 29.4, an extremely fast lap, and that 1/10 does seem to be the difference in the fuel weight from the time that they decided to do that push lap. Only 1/10 apart between Nuco's fastest lap and Illusion's fastest lap. It is looking good from these top two drivers. They are both. We have another driver, a random joining the lobby, who is not in the league. Funny name, but we can disregard him. Once again, this gap is coming down little by little, but it is slowly coming down. It does look like Illusion is going to have to bet on Nuco coming into the pits. And if you look at the state of those tires, Nuco's pace has to be coming down a bit, and it is slightly, but Nuco actually doing a great job of maintaining a really good pace despite the level of wear that he has. Illusion still in a pretty good state for his tires. Not quite as good as Boita though. Boita is basically a step above Illusion's, but both drivers have their tire wear very well balanced at the moment, and that cannot be said for Nuco, whose front left is about twice as worn as his other three. He has 5 tires. Yuki into the pits again. It is a 2-stop for Yuki. He's still doing pretty decently with this set of tires, but he realizes that he probably won't be by the end of the race distance. So just opting to get optimal running out of his final set and current set and not over pushing them. If you're going to take an additional stop, that's probably a good decision in general. Only losing 1 position by doing so, you know, it sucks, but that might have been a necessary sacrifice to make in order to finish this race comfortably and not risk ruining it by the end. Now we're going to want to keep a close eye on Nuco as he goes into the pits, exactly what I was looking for. David, not quite sure what you mean by that. I'll leave it at that. Very colorful chat today. As Nuco is in the pits, we are going to see that Toyota pit crew at work, doing their best job at getting all 4 tires on securely. Great job once more by that Toyota pit crew. These pit crews, they are as competitive as the drivers. They are, in fact, more competitive. The amount of time that takes them to actually change the tires is pretty much identical across every single team. So those pit crews know what they're doing, really getting the maximum out of those tire changes. Okay, so now the situation is 9-second gap to the leader for Nuco. What can he do in that Toyota with brand new medium tires? He does take 3 sets of mediums, and so he is going to have a pace advantage at this stage, but not very much. Not compared to if he were to have taken a set of softs, but based on the amount of wear that he's been experiencing, I don't think he would have been able to make a set of softs last. Fortunately for him, as now we can see Nuko in the background when we're on board with Illusion. And that will be an ominous sight for Illusion, as he's going to have to limp across the line in order to secure this victory here. Yeah, basically at this point in the race, he's just going to want to have to take extra close care of his tires and not bleed too much pace. His pace is still looking really good, though. Getting into the 29s lap after lap, that is no small feat. That is incredibly impressive. If you look at the timing charts on the right side of the screen, 29s all the way up and down the board, only separated by a couple of tenths each. This is extremely good pace from Illusion at the moment. But if we take a look at Nuko, who was just struggling with his tires, a little under a second slower per lap on those worn tires, we'll see after about 3 or 4 laps here what kind of pace Nuko is doing. And he's on a purple lap at the moment, so that might tell you what kind of pace he's on. Now, the odds are is that Nuko is the favorite to get fastest lap at this stage because he has brand new tires with the lightest amount of fuel load for a driver that has had optimal tires at this point in the race. And it is a new fastest lap at 29.1. That is lightning. That's an extremely fast lap, and there is just over up to if he can maintain a pace like this. Half a lap. If it's half a second per lap, he would need about 14 laps, 15 laps, and that's to catch. Passing, you also have to pass, and that takes a little more time than just catching. And but if the pace difference is what it is right there, that was a whole second. And so at a whole second, it would take about 8 laps. So I would say that the time to catch is between 8 to 15 laps. And so that puts a lot of pressure on Illusion, as it does look like at this rate he will likely catch Illusion before the end of this race, and we will have to see a battle for the victory on track. Now Illusion has advantage at the moment with that track position, but if Nuko can catch up and get wait a minute. Oh no, that spells the end of... I don't know. I don't know if there's enough time for Illusion. I was not expecting that. Nuko back in the front. Illusion losing 2 positions. Boita also going ahead. Yeah, so what do you think, Chad? You think he should have stayed out and tried to roll the dice? I think he probably should have attempted... advantage was in Nuko's favor, definitely, if he caught him especially. In order to make that pass on track, I would have given that advantage to Nuko. But it might have been worth the attempt to try. And a lot of people pointing out, too, that he is on the medium tire as well. So between taking another pit stop with only 12 laps left, you would think a soft tire would be a better option here, but maybe he's just not confident that he could make those soft tires stay in a good enough balance to actually maintain a pace advantage through the end of the race. Yeah, and at this point, too, even if Illusion has a pace advantage, he's not going to have over a second per lap of a pace advantage. There's just no way with the amount of with the amount of pace that Nuco still has, there is no way that Illusion can cut that gap down, barring a massive mistake from Nuco. But as we know, Nuco, not known for making big mistakes, especially when he's out there on his own. These top drivers are extremely consistent, and they basically just don't make mistakes. That's a wild situation there that we have now from Illusion, now in P3. It really does seem like that one pit lane penalty that he had, that 3-second penalty, really was the turning point of this race. That the moment that he had that 3-second penalty, everyone in the chat as well as myself was thinking, I declared that this race was over as soon as he got that penalty. These guys are just too fast for you to carry an extra 3 seconds at any point in this race. It's nearly impossible to recover that, because these guys are so close to the limit that even if you can find a pace advantage, it's not going to be big enough to overcome a penalty like that. And a 29.7 from Illusion, if we look at the pace from Nuco, it is about that, even slightly faster as Nuco at the moment, as his tires are all warmed up. Nuco's tires are probably in the optimal temperature and wear range at the moment, whereas Illusion's are just starting to enter that optimal window. And now Illusion's mission is to see if he can grab a few more points off of Boita by the end of this race, because he does have a pace advantage over Boita at the moment, whose tires are in a worse state, and his pace is about 1 second, just less than a second different. Although 1 second per lap, he will have enough laps to catch and pass at this rate currently. But we will see if the pace differences can hold on. If it can, then this gap should steadily be declining between Illusion and Boita. Boita doing a great job in that Porsche, though. Just, like I said, in position to pick up the pieces. If anything were to happen ahead of him, something did happen ahead of him, and now he's in P2. You'll see if he can hold on. We're taking a look at Yuki here, who does seem to be wiggling a little bit into these high-speed corners. It could be the lag slightly misrepresenting his car's position on track, which is very likely, as we were seeing his car jittering a little bit. So yeah, likely not going quite as wide as it appeared there either, as he is having to push for his life in order to stay away from Ghosted, who is closing in. We still haven't seen that fight between these two, but we can see that they can see each other. Maybe by the end of this race, we can have 2 battles going on. Hop House in the other Porsche, filling in for Alex, and filling in for me at the same time, technically. And then we got... Okay, now we have our first blue flags here that I can see on track. I believe it would be between him and his teammate. It is, so I don't believe we're going to see any impeding here between the 2 Toyota cars. If anything, we might even see a tow. And it does look like Nuco might be out of range for a tow at this stage. He's not going to want to give his teammate dirt. They could orchestrate a tow for each other. Looking back to see Ducky now getting blue flagged. Oh, and we can see that the Porsche and Illusion, they're getting closer to each other as well. We're seeing the 2 teammates getting closer. Just make sure we're not missing this. Okay. Now I wonder when we're going to see this pass here on track. Oh, it already happened. Never mind. The cars look the same, so I thought it was still other way around. Anyways, back to the actual action that is for position here on track. Now Illusion getting on his overtake and Boita getting on his overtake. This is what you save your overtake for, and Boita knew it. He knew he was just waiting for when he would need it the most, and he needs it now, as he has significantly more, over 25% more overtake. I'd say probably 30% more than Illusion at this stage, and they're both using it. So that does favor Boita slightly, and only for the moment, as it does look like Illusion does have the pace advantage and tire advantage. So despite having more overtake, that can only do so much for you when so much more is going for Illusion at the moment, as he is getting a heap of the slipstream, big wake of the slipstream. Oh, and he sweeps around the outside into the chicane, which turns into the inside of the second part, and he holds position now back into P2. Is Illusion only a 7-8 second gap to the leader Nuco, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think there's enough time for him to make that up. It does look like Nuco is probably starting to exit the prime of his tire life, as Illusion is still in the prime of his, and using up a lot of his overtakes still is Illusion, as he knows his job is not over yet. There is a big gap ahead. Oh my. Would you look at those lap times? Wow, okay, so Illusion means business right now. He can see the gap, but he is not willing to just let this go. He's gonna give it a try. As you can see, these lap times are on fire at the moment. A mid-28, and I know he has the advantage of a much lighter car at this stage of the race, but that is ridiculous lap times right there for in the race trim on a medium tire. That is ridiculous. Extremely fast. And now we got Illusion unfortunately approaching blue flagged traffic. That will get the blue flag here soon enough, although it is the teammate of the guy he is chasing. Although since it is a blue flag, that should not play a factor at all. He should just jump out of the way. Although I don't believe that if he's in a position to, that Flaring Aces is likely to help him out with a tow. He'll probably just get out of the way and slow down. So while he is not allowed to impede Illusion, he's also not likely to help him out if he can. Yeah, so definitely agree with what Whiteout's saying in chat. If you were, I mean, it was pretty clear based on where he pitted the first time that Illusion was targeting a one-stop. And if you're not going to be able to make the one-stop work and you're going to have to do a two-stop like Nuco did, Nuco had the favorable pit intervals for the two-stop. Oh, and he does get quite a bit of a tow there from Nuco's teammate. Flaring Aces providing a good slipstream for Illusion. Not that he would have wanted to do that. And we could take a look at these lap times now just to compare the differences in the pace here. Nuco back into the 30s, the low 30s. That's still an extremely fast pace that he has in general, but now it's starting to look more human level with these lap times, whereas Illusion still very much in the alien range as he is in the low 29s. That gap is coming down pretty quickly, but there's just not enough laps. Only 5 laps left and 6 seconds left. The pace is a little under 1 second difference at this current rate. Now, I think even if this rate held between the two, that he would still have about 1 second gap, a little over a second by the time they cross the finish line, barring a mistake or a massive pace drop-off from Nuco, which is possible because those tires are looking worse and worse as it goes on. And as the tires wear, the rate of wear compounds, and it just gets worse and worse. As we can see Illusion now in the background of Nuco. And you know that Nuco will definitely be seeing Illusion back there as he gets on the last bit of overtake he has left. Illusion also on his overtake, trying desperately to close this gap in as quickly as he possibly can. The gaps are still significant, but it's about 6-7 tenths at this point, and it's not quite enough. He's gonna need a big mistake from Nuco if anything is gonna happen from here in order to affect position. Boita actually looking like he has a bit worse tire wear than Nuco at the moment, ever so slightly. I think they pitted at different times too, though, so I'm not sure. I forget how many laps difference their pit interval was. Still about a quarter of overtake left is Illusion as he gets what looks like really wide onto the grass, and he definitely did dip at least a couple of tires on the grass, but I don't think he got as wide as it showed there. See, the chat's keeping up on the pit stops better than I am at this point, so good job, chat. You guys are good co-commentators. Taking a look at the gaps up and down as we go, and take a look at the overtake usage and tire wear as well. More blue flags being shown. Illusion can see his opponent ahead of him, and that gives you an extra gear when you can see your opponent, especially when it's for the win and when it's for the championship. There is a championship on the line between these two drivers, and it is extremely close. A win last round out would have made it nearly a virtual tie between these top two drivers. Illusion securing the victory at Barcelona extended his lead to a slightly more comfortable position, but as it stands right now, Nuco is looking like he would be the winner of today's race, and that would make it once again extremely tight, within striking range for Nuco. This championship is on. In the Constructors' Championship, it does look a little bit more favorable and comfortable for Exo AMR as they are in the lead of the championship. It was looking extremely tight between Porsche and Toyota as last round out. There was only 1 point separating the two of them, but Toyota managed to outscore Porsche, and based on how it's looking right now, that would definitely also be the case with Toyota outscoring Porsche. Although with the difference in position between Yuki and Flaring Aces, that might balance out the amount of points scored between ExoAMR and Toyota. So it doesn't really look like Toyota will be eating up into the gap in the Constructors' Championship. Once again, this gap is coming down steadily, very steadily, and Oh, these drivers are getting pretty low on their fuel as well. There should be enough fuel left, but Illusion really gonna take it to the edge of what he can do with his fuel. Whoa, that's not good. Okay, he does have a big enough gap to Ghosted behind that he can do this and not lose any track position. But that was concerning for a moment there. Now you can see the fuel difference between the top two guys and Boita pretty significant at this stage. Yes, I would also assume that he's going for the fastest lap of the race, probably going to put on a soft tire, and he has plenty of overtake that he can literally do a qualifying lap here and use overtake for the entirety of the lap. So we will consider this his outlap for a push. Now, even with maximum overtake usage on a soft tire, he is going to have to, uh-oh, what's going on here? Now, he should hope that he doesn't lose position on track for this pit stop, because if it only took 2 more laps, at that point, you gotta just make it work at that stage. He's also going for the soft tire, but he doesn't have enough overtake for a... Okay, very lucky on him to have just enough of a gap to stay ahead of Hop House. That seemed like an unnecessary risk. But it's an unnecessary risk that did work out for him. Okay, and now we can see Boita go for his hot lap. As I'm just checking on the gaps here between the leaders, as this is obviously for the race win. So taking a look, and it doesn't look like there's going to be enough. Definitely not, barring a massive mistake. So we will go on board with Boita for his fastest lap attempt, where he is maximizing all of his overtake usage with extremely low fuel and brand new soft tires. If anyone's going to do it, this is the best time and opportunity to do it. He does have a purple sector 1. He is on pace for the fastest lap, and that would take a point away from EXO, AMR, and Illusion if he can secure this. Okay, but first we will take our winner over the line, as Nuko is victorious in Trial Mountain, followed by Illusion, and rounding out your podium is the fastest lap attempt on the final lap, as he does secure a purple sector 2. He is still on track for the fastest lap. This is... He does it, so the rest of this sequence is going to be extremely easy here. He's got it. I didn't see by how much he's up by, but he's definitely got it. It's a 27.7. That is an absolute qualifying time. He put his car in quali spec 2 just to get that lap out of there, but he did it. Congratulations to Boita for the fastest lap of the race. Congrats to Nuko, of course, for a well-managed 2-stop and a victory. Look at the state of those tires. I mean, he had to time it out perfectly in order to make them work. So even though his tire wear was significantly worse than the others that he was directly competing with, he knew how much his tire wear would be in order to time those pit stops out perfectly for an optimal 2-stop. Unfortunately, the others that were targeting a 1-stop just didn't quite have it. And if we could see now, we got some damage on the front left suspension and front wing for Illusion. Something must have happened while he was trying to close that gap. Maybe just pushed a little too hard or something. And that is a victory for Nuko, bringing this Drivers' Championship ever closer once again. And I will bring up the total charts here. You can take a look at the lap times and everything else that you would like to see here. Many of the drivers that have just participated in the race now coming into the chat to say hello and to comment on their race. Shout out to all the drivers. It was very well performed from everyone here. This is your finishing results provisionally for this race. Your victor is Nuko of Toyota, and it was, like I said, a very well paced, managed race from everyone. Extremely fast times from our top three here. P2 being Illusion of XOMR, and P3 Boita of Porsche, as always. And that is your podium. From there, we have Ghosted in P4, Yuki in P5, Hop House in P6, Flaring Aces P7, Teo Iceman in P8, and Ducky Dono in P. Yeah, it does look like Illusion did not resolve whether or not how much the pit stop time was. But yeah, that was quite the excellent race. If you were entertained by this race or any race that we've ever done, if you're already here on the stream, make sure you give it a like. Make sure it spreads out more. That helps with all of that recommendation and stuff. But especially make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you know exactly when we're live for the next rounds. This championship is heated up in both classes. There's championships on the line. Illusion wants an interview real quick. I'll get him in here then for that. But yeah, as we wait on him to join, like I said, make sure you are liked, subscribed to this YouTube channel so you don't miss. We're going to be back here next week, next Sunday, same time for SWT. And also follow us on Instagram at Grand Prestige League. As we are now joined by Illusion in P2. What happened there?
I don't know. The game is not consistent. We tested pit stops yesterday and today, and sometimes it was 18, then others it was 30, and it was 35 seconds at some tries as well. So that just completely blew the race for me. I think I saw Nico pitted, and I was really curious to see where he ended up, and I saw that his dot on the map was way closer than I expected, and then I tried to join a party and with Pixel and discuss the time gaps. And then I messed up with the pit lane. That was bad by me, but I'm really frustrated with the pit lane not being consistent, because that's the difference between a one stop and a two stop. So yeah,
Right,
that was
precisely.
frustrating.
So I was kind of checking it out while some of the cars went into the pits, and it looked like it just skipped the sequence where it drives you all the way out of the pit lane exit. It just kind of teleported them to the end of the pit lane. And I think that only happens during an actual race session, and perhaps during a practice session, it drives you all the way out. And that would
Yeah,
account for the difference between the two, because I didn't notice that until in the race.
we tested that we set up like 2-3 laps, and then we tested if the pit stop is different. So we tested that too, and it came out 18 seconds sometimes, then 30, and others 35. So that was yeah, frustrating. So I don't know if that's a bug on a game or anything, but yeah, pretty messed up, to be
That
honest.
is
But
interesting. And I'm also curious too, because it did seem like, despite the differences in what we thought the pit time loss would be, that you still had a chance to win, but that the real turning point of the race was when you incurred that 3 second pit lane penalty on entry. What happened there? Were you not quite sure if you were going to pit or not, or just misjudged which line it was? We were speculating.
yeah, we like mid race, I tried to join a party, so I lost a bit of time there. Like after the first tunnel, then I tried to. I mean, on that back straight, I tried to join the party and discuss with Pixel what was happening, and then we just tried to figure out like going back and forth with the pit lane, like the gaps and everything. And I said I'm going to pit now, and I just got too disoriented with the party chat and just my fault actually that. But it was a lot of stuff going on before that, leading up to the pit, because I was just thinking, okay, maybe I should do a one stop, and I saw the gaps, and I figured it's not enough. But pitting at like lap 20, 21, I have a big overcut and probably will have better pace. But yeah, that pit lane penalty made it extremely difficult because I think you lose like 4 or 5 seconds from that 3 seconds countdown. Um, but as like in towards the last stint, it became clear I had more overtake, and I was thinking it might go. Um, but I think also my setup is was a bit more had a bit more wear than Yuko. I think he run. I saw he said he run 1500. I run 1465, 1695. So probably a bit more understeering, a bit more wear, and towards the end I just couldn't maintain that pace to close in. So
Interesting.
yeah,
So the
frustrating.
initial, because Nuco actually had probably the worst tire wear in the whole grid. So was the initial strategy a one stop that you were targeting?
Um, I wasn't sure because we were a bit confused about the pit time. But I was just monitoring Nuko, and I saw he pitted early, and I was like, okay, I'm not worried. I can do an overcut, and I can do a one stop. Depends on where he ends up.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, we were just speculating and discussing from like lap 16 until lap 20, 21, what we should do. Should we go for a one stop? And I think it was clear that the two stop was probably a bit better today,
yeah,
with the pit lane time. And I think with that 30 seconds, I think the one stop is better with a lot of maintaining. But yeah, it is what it is.
definitely. I agree with all of that. And it does seem that if the two stop was the way to go, that Nuco had just timed his stops a little bit better for optimal running throughout his stints. And despite the tire wear differences, because his was significantly worse. Um, but yeah, thank you for coming on and explaining that. A lot of people were wondering about that. I will see if Nuco wants to do a quick interview as well, really quickly. But thank you very much.
All right, later.
Yep, later. So we will see real quick if our race winner wants to jump in here, as it does look like he has switched the lobby over to immediately practice for the next round at Tokyo. And like I said just before, you guys are going to want to subscribe because the next round in Tokyo, that's another original track with really close walls, but it's going to be raining. So there's going to be an extra twist. You can see on track, this is generally going to be what we're seeing, but with rain involved. I'll give Nuko just a minute to see if he wants to join or not, and then we will wrap this stream up. Oh, BP, very interesting. Haven't seen BP in a long time. Another Frenchman who last season in SWT won the Drivers' Championship in a really tight. Oh, and there he is. Okay, so chat, make sure to let us know if you can hear Nuko. And Nuko, make sure that your voice settings are set to allow to be shared. Cool. I can, yeah. And the chat will let us know if they can hear you as well. But what an excellent race for me, man. Kind of take us through how that race went for you. Okay, excellent. Yeah, and the chat says that they cannot hear you, by the way. Yeah, so it is in the party, and it is voice chat settings, and then share your voice has to be set to allow. Okay, did you find that? He's just looking for the setting, everyone, real quick. It should be in the party. Let's see. In the party settings. Thank you for bearing with us, chat, as this is the most important interview of the century. It is worth the wait, I assure you. Okay, sounds good. Okay, he was on the phone, he couldn't find the setting, so he's going to join on the PlayStation and see if he can find the setting real quick. He has returned.
You hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Chat can let us know if they can hear you.
Normally they can because I allowed the setting.
Okay, it is in voice chat settings.
I have the option and it's
Okay, yeah, they can hear you now.
okay. Okay.
You are very
So,
quiet, but they can hear you.
yes, I can up the volume. Like this is better.
Very slightly better.
Okay. So
right. Yeah, go ahead and take us through your race again, if you would.
Yes, what?
Go ahead and tell us about your race.
Okay. Yes. So for the start, I tried to overtake Illusion, but it was impossible because our pace was very similar. So I take the possibility to undercut him, but I was not very confident about it in lap 14. So after, in the second stint, I decided to put all my pace in the second stint to be P1 after my second pit. And when I saw him with an overcut in lap 21-22 when in pits, I was pretty confident to be P1 for the last stint, and after I thought I knew I had the pace to keep the gap with him. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this result.
Indeed, it was excellently managed, and even despite you having worse tire wear than everyone else, why do you think that is? Were you just pushing too hard?
Yeah, I was just pushing very hard compared to my basic compared to my earlier strategy for the race. So it was a total improvisation by me.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, despite the increased tire wear from you, you timed the pit stops just right, and you ended up with the victory. So congratulations, man. That was a
Thank you.
excellent one to watch. Nail biter, and you are still in contention for the Drivers' Championship. And so best of luck to you for next round.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, chat, for patiently waiting. But like I said earlier, once again, I will sign off with saying, make sure that you like and subscribe this YouTube channel, as well as follow us on Instagram at Grand Prestige League. We will be back here at Trial Mountain next week for SWT. Make sure you don't miss that.